She was lying in his barley field when he found her. Not sleeping. Not resting. Lying the way a tree lies after it falls, the kind of stillness that has nothing left to argue with. The last of the grain had been cut 3 days ago, and the field was all stubble and cold mud, and she was face down in the center of it, her great hands open at her sides, her armor cracked across the shoulder like something had tried to split her at the seam. Cale Dreist stood at the field's edge for a long moment, lantern in hand, the autumn dark pressing in from every direction. Then he walked toward her. He was 64 years old and had not been a young man even when he was young, and he had farmed this land for 37 years. He knew what a dying animal looked like. He also knew this was not one. He crouched beside her and held the lantern low. An orc woman. 7 feet if she was an inch, built like a mill beam, with tusks that curved up past a jaw set even in unconsciousness like it was bracing for another blow. Iron gray braids, half unraveled. A broken spear shaft still in her right fist, clutched so tight he could see the tendons standing in her knuckles. She was breathing. Barely. He went back to the house and got his blanket and a tin cup of water and came back, and he stayed. By morning she was conscious enough to turn her head. She looked at him across the wet stubble with eyes the color of old moss and said nothing, and he said nothing either, and he held the water out, and after a long time she took it. It took 2 more days before she could sit up. 5 before she could stand. Cale did not ask questions. He brought food, hard bread, a thick broth his wife Elsa had taught him, dried plums that he kept in a crock on the second shelf. He brought them and set them down and left, and when he came back the bowl was empty. He did not make a show of it. His nearest neighbor, Bram Whittle, came by on the 3rd day and stood at the fence and looked at the shape in the barn and said, "That an orc?" "It is," Cale said. "She dangerous?" Cale thought about the broken spear still in her fist even when she slept, and the armor cracked like it had been through something enormous, and the way she had not once asked him for anything, not even the water, had only taken it when offered. "Probably was," he said. "Not right now." Bram gave him a look that said he thought Cale had gone soft in his old age, and rode on, and Cale went back inside and put more broth on the fire. On the 8th day she came to the house. She had to bend nearly in half to get through the doorway, and she stood in his kitchen with her hands at her sides and her chin level, and she said, "My name is Vara Ashvin. I was war captain of the Greywood clan." "Was," Cale said. She did not flinch. "Was." He pulled out the chair across from his and sat down in his own, and he said, "Sit." She looked at the chair like it might be a joke. Then she sat. The chair groaned but held. He poured 2 cups of tea and set one in front of her, and she looked at it for a moment with the careful attention of someone handling something breakable. "There is no Greywood clan," she said. "Not anymore." Cale wrapped both hands around his cup. "How many?" "412, at the last count." She said it the way a person says a number they have said so many times it has worn smooth. "We held the Thorngate for 11 days. Long enough for the children to be sent east. Long enough for the Trader's Road to stay open." She paused. "Not long enough." The kitchen was quiet except for the fire. "I swore," she said, "over my general's body, that I would find them. The children. 11 of them, sent to 4 different settlements east of the Ashvin Hills. They don't know each other. They don't know if anyone is coming." She looked at the tea. "I swore I would go for them. Tell them what the clan was. Make sure they were not alone. That's why you kept moving," Cale said. "Until I could not." He nodded once. He had been on his own for 6 years, since Elsa died. He knew what it was to carry something that had no one to share it with. "Eat your bread," he said. She looked at him. "The bread," he said again, and pushed the plate toward her. She ate. And that was the beginning of it. She stayed in the barn another week, and then she moved to the room at the end of the hall that had been empty since his daughter married and moved to the valley below, and Cale did not make a ceremony of it, just put clean linen on the bed and set a hook on the door for her spear and left a candle burning in the window. He did not pry. He did not crowd. He fed her and left her alone and asked nothing that was not practical, and she mended steadily, the way strong things mend, not all at once but deeply, the way bone knits rather than skin. What he did not know, until the 3rd week, was that she was also watching him. She saw how he moved through the farm, deliberate, unhurried, each task given its full attention. The way he talked to his horse like a person. The way he kept the second cup washed and set ready on the shelf, the habit of a man who still half expected someone to come in. The way he sat by the window in the evenings and did not read and did not sleep, just sat, with his hands folded, looking at the dark hills. She understood that kind of sitting. She came to his kitchen again on a Thursday evening, without being asked, and she sat down in the same chair and said, "I need a map." Of what? The settlements east of the Ashfin Hills. The roads between them. He had a map. Not a good one, a hand-drawn thing his neighbor's brother had made 15 years ago, but he spread it on the table and they bent over it together, her great finger tracing the routes east while he told her what he knew about the roads, which ones turned to mud in autumn, which ones flooded where the river bent. And then she told him about the children. Not all at once, but a little at a time, over the evenings that followed. A girl of 9 named Aoife who had gone to a tinsmith's family in Colford. Twin boys, 7, sent to a sheep farmer outside Dunrow. A quiet girl with one arm who had gone furthest east, nearly to the border of the trading settlements. And the others, 8 more, scattered like seeds thrown in wind, each one with a Greywood name that was all they had left of 412 people. Cale listened. He did not offer comfort. He just listened, and occasionally he asked a practical question: how far was Colford, what was the tinsmith's family name, and she answered, and the map slowly filled with marks in his careful hand. On the night the first snow came, she said, "You don't have to do this." He looked up from the map. Do what? She gestured between them, the lamp, the tea, the map covered in his handwriting. This. Any of this. I know, he said. He capped his pen and rolled the map and said, "I'll be ready to leave in 3 days. The roads east are better before the snow sets in." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I told you. There is no Greywood clan." "I know," he said again. "That's not what I'm going for." She looked at him across the lamplight. "I'm going because 11 children are waiting," he said, "and you're going to need someone who knows the eastern roads." He went to bed. She sat at the table with the map in her hands for a long time after. They left on the 4th morning, Cale's cart loaded with flour and smoked meat and blankets enough for a dozen, Vara on the bench beside him with her repaired spear across her knees and her chin level and her eyes on the road ahead. He had not made a fuss about the supplies. Had simply loaded them, checked the horse's harness, and climbed up. "You bought all this," she said. "I did. For 11 children you have never met." "I have a farm," he said. "And a room at the end of the hall, and 3 more rooms besides." He clicked his tongue at the horse. "I was going to have to do something with them eventually." The road east through the Ashfin Hills was 3 days in good weather, 4 in autumn mud, and they made it in 4.5. They did not talk much. But it was not an uncomfortable quiet, it was the quiet of 2 people who have agreed on something without needing to say so. Colford was first. The tinsmith's name was Jorav, a broad-shouldered man who had taken Aoife in out of something between kindness and duty and had fed her well but did not quite know what to do with a 9-year-old orc girl who spoke little and watched everything. He was not cruel. He was simply uncertain, the way good people are uncertain of things outside their experience. Vara crouched in the yard so her eyes were level with Aoife's, and she said, in the old Greywood tongue, a phrase Cale could not understand. He watched the girl's face change. Whatever Vara had said, he asked her later, and she told him, "I knew your mother. She was brave, and you are hers," it was enough. The girl folded forward into Vara's arms with the particular collapse of someone who has been holding something upright for a very long time. They stayed 2 days. They left with Aoife in the back of the cart, bundled in a blanket, asleep before they reached the edge of town. The twins were next, outside Dunrow. Then a boy named Ossiver at a mill on the river road. Then 2 more children at a farmstead past the second ridge, a girl and her younger brother who had not spoken in 3 months and who watched Vara cross the yard with their hands knotted together. Vara sat with them in the barn for an hour. Cale did not follow. He watered the horse and repaired a spoke on the cartwheel that had been working loose and waited, and when she came out the boy was riding on her shoulders and the girl was holding her hand. It took 19 days in all. 4 settlements, 11 children. 11 different families who had taken them in with varying degrees of warmth and uncertainty. 11 different conversations, in a language Cale did not speak, that he could only measure by what he saw on the children's faces afterward. He saw the same thing every time. The particular relief of being named. Of being known by someone who knew where you came from. They drove home through the first real snow of winter, the cart full, the children asleep in layers in the back under every blanket Cale had brought. Vara sat beside him on the bench with her arms folded and her eyes straight ahead, and the snow came down soft and steady on the Ashfin hills. "You kept it," Cale said. "The promise." "Yes." She was quiet for a while. "I thought it would feel like an ending," she said. "Does it?" The snow came down. The horse picked its way through the white road, unhurried. "No," she said. They reached the farm in the early dark, and Cale lit every lamp in the house, and the children came in one by one and stood in the kitchen blinking at the warmth. He put water on for porridge. He set out every bowl he owned. He pulled the long table from the wall and added the leaf that had not been in since Elsa's last Christmas, and it was still not quite big enough, and that was fine. Aoife found the dried plums on the second shelf. She looked at him over her shoulder, uncertain. "Go ahead," he said. She climbed up and got the crock down and carried it to the table with the gravity of someone carrying something important, and the boy Ossiver leaned over immediately to look, and 3 other children crowded after him, and Vara watched from the doorway with her arms folded and something on her face that was not exactly a smile but was close enough. Cale ladled porridge. He moved around his own kitchen, the kitchen he had moved through alone for 6 years, the kitchen with the second cup always washed and waiting on the shelf, and it was full of sound, small voices, and the scraping of chairs and someone laughing at something the twins had done, and the snow outside, and the fire inside, and every lamp burning. He sat down at the head of the table. Vara came and sat at the other end. She looked at him across 11 children and the long table and the lamplight, and he looked back, and there was something in the air between them that did not need to be named, the same quality as the quiet on the road, the same agreement reached without words. He had almost nothing to spare. 6 years ago, when Elsa died and the farm went quiet. He had exactly what he needed now. He had lit one fire in a barley field, on a dark autumn night, for a woman who had been carrying something too heavy to carry alone. The rest had taken care of itself.